November 25th, 1993.
So that's how we met, but that was that. And then on and off.
On this traditional Thanksgiving, a look at the unique. It's a celebration of genius, a celebration of creativity, a celebration of individuality.
I try to provoke people, make them laugh, make them mad, make them cry, make them remember.
Tonight, Giving Thanks, American Originals.
This is ABC News Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from Washington, Cokie Roberts.
When we look at paintings of the first Thanksgiving, those stern and starched English settlers at Plymouth now seem so familiar we tend to forget what it was to be a pilgrim, to set out on a treacherous course to a strange continent in hope of creating a better life. Thanksgiving's become a commemoration of the generations of pilgrims who've made their way to this land, providing it with the spiritedness born of diversity. Tonight, we've decided to celebrate some modern pilgrims, people doing new or unusual things, shown to us in an unconventional way. Produced by Robert Keller and edited by Peter Ember, these are glimpses into the lives of a few Americans, most of them in Keller's home state of California. We start with Milton Levine, who was one day enjoying another American tradition, the backyard barbecue, when he became mesmerized by an ant.
Stopped for a red light, and 4 teenagers got out of the car in back of me. And I really got frightened, the way they're shooting people today. And they said, "Oh, you're Uncle Milton, I want to shake your hand." I'll say over the years, we've shipped more ants than McDonald's have sold hamburgers. And they've sold, well, maybe not, because they're in the billions. We're in the multi-millions. Ship a lot. They have their own little colony, their own little society, and they seem to be happy. Never seen an ant frowning, or never seen them smiling either. We have people that are on our payroll. That's all they do, collect the ants and put them in the little vials. We call them ant pickers, ant wranglers. Our original man, he was from Tennessee. His offspring are doing it now. These are called Pogonomyrmex californicus, better known as pogies. They're harvester ants. We've shipped over 12 million ants, ant farms. We didn't know it was going to hit. Hell, my wildest dreams, I'd never believe it. 36 years from now, to still be selling it, and more each year. That's the business. I love ants. They put 3 of my kids through college. Great. Hooray for the ant.
When I arrived in this country 10 years ago, you went to the supermarkets, you had iceberg lettuce, and you had big carrots and big eggplants and big zucchinis, and that was it. The total approach of food, or the way Americans eat, changed over the last 10 years. And the whole restaurant scene changed. Hey, Johnny, the peaches have to be riper. They're not ripe enough, huh? They make the best mashed potato. And we're going to take the yellow zucchini because we're going to stuff them tonight. Or give me 50 mackerel. We can marinate them then. I studied 6 years as an apprentice, and I dedicated myself 100% to this job. I came early in the mornings when the other people arrived at 9:30. I arrived at 6. My career went with a rapid pace because with 23, I was a sous chef in a French kitchen with 40 Frenchmen, and I was the only foreigner in there. So I think it helped me a lot to be, determined and ambitious. I mean, you always can eat. At each street corner is a restaurant, but I think there are not many who deliver an entertainment on the level we do. When they come, we always bring them something new. And we deliver entertainment to them for the 2-3 hours, and they pay a price for it. Is the veal chop going? Yes. Niçoise, how long? A tuna ratatouille and a quesadilla, and the tuna for the Niçoise medium. Yes? Yes. Okay. I think everybody knows what's going on in the kitchen. There's a harmony between different players. Like you play music, you have to come into the right sound. The sauce man knows exactly when the fish man should be ready, and they come up, they say, 2 minutes, 1 minute, we go. Yes, we go, we play, out. And that's the way it works. You're always on the spot. At lunchtime you're on the spot. It's at dinner time you're on the spot. It never stops. You're always in the limelight. Patina's new creations are Santa Barbara shrimp with mashed potato and potato truffle chips, lasagna of white fish with mushroom juice, vanilla tart with oven roasted peach and chocolate cilantro sauce. You will love it. Creating dishes is one thing. Running a restaurant is the second thing. Being famous is the third thing. So there are a lot of levels of chefing.
Californians sometimes resent their state's reputation as the land of the wacky, but weird and wonderful residents of the Golden State keep the legend alive. Paul Mavrides runs the mail-order-only Church of the Sub-Genius and plays bass guitar in a San Francisco area industrial noise band, whatever that is. And Paul Mavrides is an artist.
The world's in a mess. It's going down the drain. The human race won't be around much longer. Frankly, if things don't change, the cockroaches aren't going to think much of my work, except in matters of how it tastes. An undercurrent theme in much of my work is an effort to try to make people think for themselves, find facts on their own, not be victims of propaganda, even while I try to create propaganda itself. Comic books can't change the world. I do the comics because they're disposable, because you can read them, get the point, get a joke, have a laugh, and throw it over your shoulder, or give it to somebody else. It's not the valuable item to be placed in a museum. What's the difference between fine art and low art? Well, you can walk into a shop and spend 25 cents on a pack of gum cards, or you can walk into a Soho gallery and spend $300,000 on a pile of artfully arranged rocks on the floor. We're drowning in imagery. We're drowning in objects. We're drowning in symbols that are constantly being mixed up. And as symbols, as representations of things, I can play with these. I can take them and juxtapose them in different ways, reassemble them for yet another piece of work. I just look at all this as raw material. And I also try to surprise myself. I don't always know where my ideas come from. basically I became an artist because I can sleep till noon, make lots of noise, throw paint on stuff, misbehave, and get respect. I try to provoke people, make them laugh, make them mad, make them cry, make them remember. I'm trying to use the popularized idea of velvet paintings as a fulcrum to make people reconsider some of the real events I depict in my work.
Challenger, go with throttle up.
Challenger, go with throttle up.
You can say, like, why do a painting of a murder or a disease or a war or something? Isn't that tasteless? You had Worrell back in the 60s, like, selling off lithos of electric chairs, although, you know, back then it was easier to, like, shock people. But now that we're all more jaded, you got to put them on black velvet to get to and even then, that outrage is probably only going to be good until right after this piece airs.
We can't see who has been hit, if anybody's been hit, but apparently something is wrong here. Something is terribly wrong.
Oswald has been shot.
A painting of Jim Jones's victims leaves no room for interpretation. You know what it is. You're thinking about it. You're thinking about something you didn't want to think about. The velvets can provoke horror. They can provoke laughter. All these triggers are just my tools for getting people to reassess these events and to keep them from becoming dry history.
You're talking to somebody that does comic books and bubblegum cards and just about any popular art outlet that there is, as well as, like, paintings. And it's all just a medium to me. A bubblegum card's just as valid as, you know, a Renaissance painting.
For every artist and actor that make California famous, there are, of course, a few thousand people who get up every day and go off to regular jobs in the factory or on the farm. Harry Anderson spent his last years in the workforce as a high school principal, but now he's retired and able to indulge his passion.
They're everywhere. They're out in the front yard, backyard. If there's a flower or a plant, there's a calcit. We've gone to Australia, and I've collected off the Great Barrier Reef and Tahiti and Bora Bora and Alaska, the Caribbean and Europe, and all over the United States and Canada. Money has nothing to do with it. It's just pure scientific research. It's finding them out, getting a new species, the delight and the thrill and the excitement of saying, hey, no one has ever seen this one before. I was the first one to do it, and I named it, and it's mine. I imagine I have one of the largest personal collections in California. I have approximately 25 to 30,000 of those calcids. And it takes a lot of tender loving care. Some of them are so small we can't even mount them on pinheads. We have to put them on a microscopic slide. Most of them are very helpful. They help control a lot of our insects that do damage to crops, and so we really need them. Right now I'm working on a genus called Haltocoptera, and I'm revising the whole genus. I've been working on that for over 4 years. I've got 4,500 specimens that I have to look at, measure. I measure width of the head and height of the head, the size of the eye. We measure everything we can measure on the thing. 40, 50 measurements on each one of the insects in that particular group. Then I have to decide, is it a different species or not? And that's my biggest problem. I remember when I first saw these things underneath the microscope, I just grew in love with them. You know, just and it hasn't changed. You almost feel like you're down there on a stage, just with them. And Wish we could talk to them, except most all the ones I have are dead and pinned and glued on a point. So. This is a new species of the genus Haltocoptera. I'm calling it Haltocoptera alaskensis. That will be its formal valid name when this paper is finally published. This was caught in 1985 when we were on vacation in Alaska. This particular genus is characterized by the large male pelts that we can see here that are right in the back of the... You'll notice as you look at this, this is highly colored and one of the most beautiful calces that are around. Again, as we get down into the tropics, we get the beautiful colors, and there we've seen the greens and the purples and the blues and the browns. In the last 5 years, since I retired in 1987, I've been full-time, just full-time, spending 35 to 40 hours a week. Every chance I get, I work on my calces. In fact, I'm busier now than I was when I was a high school principal. If someone asks me what I do, I just say I collect bugs, and I kind of let it go at that. But that's what I am, a calcium collector.
It's almost like magic, I guess, which is one of the reasons I like it. Actually, what's happening is the explosive is acting like a giant stamping press, and it's stamping the metal into the mold, and the metal forms over the mold and gives it its three-dimensional effect. Any object that's laid on the top of a metal plate between the explosive and the plate will transfer its image to the plate. And so even a leaf or lace material, something as delicate as a feather, will actually transfer its image onto the plate. That's very magical. Well, for instance, in this piece for the sheep and cows that I've been making, I used popcorn and macaroni to make the wool. I used real grass for the grass. For the cows, I used that kind of wood excelsior, I guess you call it, to make their curly hair. I used kitty litter on this for the skin of the pig. Well, I've been doing this now, it's more than 6 years. And most of the things I've done have been for public buildings. I've done a lot of schools, universities, libraries, some state buildings. I came to this by happenstance, but now it serves its purpose in a technical way to get the kind of images that I'm interested in. I've always liked very complex images full of all kinds of things happening, and this is a technique where I can get that very complex surfaces. The fact that they were made in this interesting way is interesting for me, and it's interesting for, you know, people to watch maybe how it's made, but the piece itself has to be a piece of art.